Alrighty. Hello, everybody. I'll wait a few seconds for our attendees to join, for your audio to connect. But I'd like to welcome anyone who is joining us for our live session, and also hello to you all who are watching this recording. My name is Gabrielle Oates, and I'm here representing the Educating All Learners Alliance in today's webinar on creating access to distance learning experiences for all. So we're really excited to have Wish join us today. And so just to get started in, again, welcome. Feel free to engage in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, whether that be in the US or internationally. But we just want to get started. So as you can see, we have two organizations hosting today's session. Again, my name is Gabrielle Oates. I'll let my colleague introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Shauna Draxton. I am with WISH. I'm the executive director of our TK through 12th grade schools.
Absolutely. And Shauna will be giving an introduction into WISH and the work they do. But I wanted to give everyone a little bit of insight into ELA and what we do. So the Educating All Learners Alliance is over 80 partner organizations in one group who have come together all for the goal of creating resources and promoting best practices for students with disabilities. So on our website, we have a resource library. We host events like this one. And so we're really happy to partner with WISH. And I'll go ahead and pass it over to their team to talk a bit more about today's session.
Okay, so as we get started, I'm going to go ahead and introduce all of our presenters. I'm thrilled to have had a role in collaborating with teachers as well as researchers and families on this project. And in this project, I was joined by Victoria Phillips, who is one of our middle school general education teachers. We have Kelly and Abby Leon. Kelly is a magnificent mom who joined us on this journey, and Abby is a fantastic 7th grader. We're also joined by Dr. Amy Hanreddy, who is a professor at CSUN, Sarah Brady, who is an education specialist at the secondary level at WISH. We have Dr. Vicki Graff, who is an LMU professor who's joined us throughout this work. We have Rachel Woodward, who's the Director of Special Services at WISH, and also Jordan Ojeda, who is an elementary education specialist. So this team will be sharing different perspectives as we take you through all of the elements of what we've worked on throughout this project. So I'll start by sharing a little bit about WISH. We are an inclusive TK through 12th grade program. We have an elementary, a middle, and a high school. And we believe that students learn best when they are in heterogeneous groups from the outset. And in every one of our classrooms, we have 1 to 2 students with significant support needs. We have students who would be identified as highly gifted, and then a myriad of strengths and needs in between. And we truly believe that when kids are raised in classrooms that value all learners from the outset, they grow up and they become adults that create community spaces and workplaces for all kinds of folks. And so we're really thrilled to have the opportunity to have classrooms like this and to work together to make sure there is social justice through inclusivity in all ways at our schools. We're guided by several tenets. 2 of the tenets that we rely heavily on are family partnerships, as well as co-teaching and collaboration. And so that's a little bit of what our classrooms look like. Just like all of you, we were surprised last March when we got word that we needed to shut down schools. And we thought it would just be a little bit of time. We felt certain that there would be 2 weeks off of our campuses and that kids would return. And so our teachers quickly worked together to try to find ways to reach students. They took 1 professional development day to really understand how the technology would work. We moved to a conferencing platform, and they immediately started synchronous instruction and some time for small groups and asynchronous instruction in the afternoons. We had some real challenges in the beginning, and some things were working For many of our students, some things were not working for some of our students, and we had to have a lot of discussions about how to really move forward. And as we realized that this distance learning surprise wasn't going to be 2 weeks, we had to really buckle in and understand how we were going to make shifts to serve students well for a longer period of time in distance learning. So for, in particular, our students with significant support needs, there were some immediate challenges that stood out for us because of the pandemic, because of COVID-19. We could not put additional adult supports in the home, and so immediately that role fell on a caregiver in the home, and that was challenging because that caregiver already had additional duties, be it running the home or working another job or caring for other kids or so many things. And so that was really challenging because some of our students need that intensive support throughout the day. And then we found that, our kids have very specific supports, identified it in their IEPs, and those didn't just translate readily without a conversation. And so with those challenges in place and with hearing from folks on our teams, we dug in to try to figure out how to serve kids and families and educators. I'm going to ask Dr. Amy Henry to join me and share a little bit about that initial parent and teacher feedback.
Sure. So as a professor in teacher preparation in special education, I think that, we all feel really responsible for representing what are evidence-based practices and how do we prepare teachers to serve all students. And I think that, like Dr. Draxton mentioned, this was really a slap in the face to us and a wake-up call that we really didn't know. We didn't know how to serve kids through distance learning, and in particular, students with extensive support needs who rely on a high level of support to access their education. And I think that because we all recognized we didn't know what to do, one of the things that I did early on was just pull together colleagues who were also involved in teacher preparation, but most importantly, people who were directly serving students in the field. So we brought together representatives who were teachers on the ground, serving students, as well as administrators in charters and traditional districts, just to get together. We called it a community of practice, and we started getting together every week to really talk about the details. What do we think are best practices? What do we think this should look like as we move forward, even as we were defining it ourselves? And that group has actually been meeting every week since March 2020 for the most part. And it was really all about figuring out how to serve these kids. One of the big questions that we had was, along with kids, how do we serve families who are providing that direct support to students at home? Families who were saying, my student doesn't want to look at the computer. They're saying this doesn't work for us. And it was really our responsibility to find ways to try to make it work. And again, to try to define what those practices should be. One of the things that we did as a community of practice was to first develop a survey. We felt like we had a lot of anecdotal information from families about their experiences within our own programs, but we really wanted to get some broader input from families. So we put together a survey that was then distributed throughout kind of all of our networks. We used social media, we used some national organizations that we're a part of. And that got us a little over 100 responses from families of students with extensive support needs. And based on that, we really discovered things that weren't surprising, but that validated some of our experiences, that families were really seeking more communication from the educators who were serving their kids. They really wanted some voice in what the priorities were for their kids during this time. And they really just wanted some more tailoring of their programs for their students. So with that, we created as a group a tool called the Family Support Plan. And it's really just a document with some guiding questions to support educators and families in having conversations about those things, about how they'll collaborate together, how they will prioritize what the learning support should be for a particular student. And then we really expanded upon that with our work with WISH.
Great. Yeah, so that initial family support plan tool we looked at when we came together. Vicki, do you want to join us, Dr. Graff, and share some of the next steps that occurred in this project?
Really pleased to join everyone today. Amy's research and her family support tool was very, very helpful. I mean, you heard the background and the extensive research that went into developing this family support plan tool. But we wanted to actually conduct another survey with families to really understand what their primary priorities were, so that it was very meaningful for the families as we collaborated with them. And to be honest, that's what it was all about. It was a team approach. It was a collaboration with teachers and all the service providers. We also knew that families were very concerned about being isolated, being away, physically away from WISH and with the in-person instruction that they had been receiving previously. So it was important to these families that there be synchronous instruction and that it also involved their peers, the friends that had been in the class with the family, students and children and so forth. So it was very important that they had that. We also wanted to make sure that there was ongoing communication to be able to design and to actually refine the program for the child. So we wanted to have feedback from the families as to how it was going, so that we could then make any changes that we needed to make sure that the instruction was really authentic and that it really was meeting the needs of the families. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graff. Thank you, Dr. Graff, for sharing those next steps. Ms. Woodward, can you join us and share about some of the processes that you leaned on to make this work be more successful for families and educators?
Sure. So like Dr. Graff and Dr. Hanratty said, we pulled families to see what they needed, what we needed to be listening to in order to make this more successful for them. But we did the same thing with educators. We have to listen to our teachers too. And it was actually fascinating to see quite a one-to-one match between what are the tools that our teachers found to be successful to provide instruction in this setting and what our families were looking for. And so we leaned on very familiar processes that we just had to tweak to be able to provide meaningful instruction to students. So for us, that was our weekly co-planning and co-teaching, weekly co-planning and daily co-teaching. So we did that when we were live together. We had to figure out some new ways to do it, but we also did it when we were able to transition that to supporting students working online. Synchronous instruction, so having those live in person or live over the computer screen connections with our students rather than sending home packets and expecting families to complete work and then send it back to us. And then also scheduling meetings to collaborate with our service providers and our service provider teachers and parents together through Zoom or Google Meets or whatever platform that we were using. So our co-planning weekly, co-teaching daily, live and instruction interactions with our families and students, and ongoing communication and collaboration with our service providers to ensure that what we were proposing, we were listening to what was happening in the family support plan, and that it was making sense for students and families.
Thank you, Ms. Woodward. Very helpful, absolutely. So we're going to ask Dr. Hanratty to come back and take us through how this journey was.
Great. So you can see on the screen, we really designed based on the survey and what we had learned about what was already working effectively at WISH and our other partners. We designed these tools around 4 critical conversations with families. So you see we have the family support plan that I described, and then we're going to go through each of these. We also have a tool called the goal activity matrix educational plan. We looked at environmental and instructional supports, and then we looked at how we would design co-teaching and universal design for learning. within this setting. We decided to, in order to showcase these tools, we really wanted to reflect the diversity of students served by WISH and by WISH programs. And so we decided to follow 6 families. So we had 2 families from elementary settings, 2 from middle school, and 2 from high school. And then for each of those groups, we have a series of perspectives in our videos that showcase the work. So we have videos from a parent perspective, one from a teacher perspective, one from a researcher perspective. And then for each of these, there's a longer video that really dives a little bit deeper into what the tool is and what the process really looks like. And I think that we're going to have Dr. Graff come back and describe a little bit more about the family support plan.
You get the opportunity to actually be able to watch a parent perspective video. So here you will see Ms. Cordoba share about the very real challenges of distance learning and the feelings that accompanied them.
School system.
I have to teach you how to use these, so then we.
In the beginning, I was really afraid of distance learning because Josue is a child with different abilities. Josue depends on me to navigate through the entire school system.
I have to teach you how to use these, so then we can model and show Josue how to use them.
Although distance learning is lasting longer than any of us anticipated, I started with a really positive attitude, but I quickly realized that this was going to continue for a long time. Okay, so go back and just put a lowercase b. My son needs a lot of help to participate, and it's almost impossible to manage my household responsibilities and his school program. In the beginning, we tried to do all the same things as the other students, but it was really hard and I needed to learn all of the systems. Trying to do it all on my own only resulted in a lot of frustration for both my son and I.
We can use this during class if there's a yes or no question, if an activity is going to stop.
So you can see from Ms. Cordoba really the sense of frustration and feeling overwhelmed that she was experiencing in the beginning, and that's really consistent with what we were hearing from families all over the place. Families describe the experience of not having a break, where kids used to go to school and families, whether it was work that they were going to or just taking care of other responsibilities, they now really don't have that break. And in addition, have this additional role of being the kind of direct support to their student in accessing their education. And so you saw that very beginning part of a teacher starting to describe how the family support plan would address some of those concerns.
The family support plan gave us an opportunity to design the program around the needs of our whole family and my child. It has helped us to feel like a true partner in my child's educational program. Trying to go outside? I saw that you didn't go because we have a stop sign. That's good. Since we developed the plan together, I understand how to support my son learning at home. I also feel like my child's teachers and specialists have a better understanding of Josue's learning since they are learning about him with us as true partners in this work.
I think you can see very clearly that this is definitely a team approach in terms of the families working collaboratively with the educators, providing input and feedback to them so that, again, the educators can tailor make their instruction for the families. And it truly is a strong partnership with the families through this very, very challenging time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graff. And Dr. Henry, I'm going to ask you to come back for just a moment. And, as we are looking at the family support plan and the conversations that we continue to have with families, we do have our schools back on hybrid, and many schools having some, hybrid learning, and even an opportunity to move back to traditional. But I know throughout this time, we've learned a lot from distance learning. And as professors who serve pre-service practitioners, and you get to influence what those teachers take with them as they are in your program, what from distance learning will you be integrating into your program that they can take forward and use in hybrid, in distance, but also in traditional?
Well, I can start. So this family support plan, we we piloted it during distance learning. We through Wish really had that opportunity to get that to work out the bumps and streamline it. And I actually did have my students implementing family support plans with the students that they were serving during distance learning at the same time. And now we have several of my teacher candidates are reopened. They're back in schools and they're serving kids. And yet many of them are still using the family support plan. What they're finding is that kids still need tailored programs as they're coming back that really bridge home and school. And even as we're moving into reopening, they're working out kind of all those bumps along the way and using some kind of hybrid approaches. And so they're still really leaning very heavily on this tool to plan their students' programs.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Graff?
But I think one of the biggest takeaways from this whole experience, and especially working with this project, is the close partnership and collaboration with families. I mean, I know that, we talk about it in our classes, that you need to engage with families, but I don't think it really has made as much of an impact on our candidates as it does now. And regardless of whether we're face-to-face or whether we're using a distance platform, to see families as really a partner, an equal partner in this journey, I think has really come through loud and clear. And I'm hoping in the future that we can really maximize our educators, our future teachers, to see how instrumental the families can be. For obvious reasons, it's their children that we're working with. But I think that this opportunity, this has been one of the unexpected benefits, I would say, from this very challenging time, is to see how close we can work with families. So that's my takeaway as I bring it back to my students. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. I absolutely agree. That was definitely something important that happened throughout distance and that we can carry forward. Okay, we're going to go into our next section, which is goal activity matrix. And it was a conversation that Ms. Ojeda will join us for and lead us into. Thank you.
Of course. So the family support plan really helped us understand what was going on at home so we could make a great outline for to best support both the students and their families. Once we had that support plan figured out and everyone agreed upon what we were working on, what times we were working on things, how we were working on things in a small group, in a one-on-one Zoom, whatever needed to be done to support both those students and their families, we were then able to move on to our game plan, which was another amazing tool, again, with collaboration with everyone on the team, any specialists working with the students, the general education teachers, myself as a special education teacher, and again, the families. And with this tool, we were really able to look at those individualized goals in those students' IEPs and find ways for families to implement them at home. Because a big question was, how are we supposed to work on this in a home setting? And the great thing with collaboration is we had multiple people thinking, giving ideas, and we were able to find solutions for these students to continue to practice their goals, even while learning at home.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Ojeda, for introducing us to this next video.
We have always valued strong family partnerships. We're gonna pick a friend. Can you think of a friend's name? Oh, I need listening, I need big ears. During distance learning, family members play a critical role in ensuring their child with extensive support needs can access the learning environment.
Tessa to Kaylee to Jaden. Who do you want to write to?
Jaden, all right. As a teacher, I need to increase collaboration to ensure my students and their parents know exactly how they would participate in class and work towards their goals.
I just want to be able to keep up with the curriculum that we're going through.
I have found that completing the Goal Activity Matrix Education Plan, or GAME Plan, with each family has been an effective way to tailor instruction for my students. This tool helps me ensure my students have opportunities to work towards individualized learning goals within synchronous instruction, as well as during typical activities in their home.
Everyone felt better and more confident about the program and how it could be implemented at home through distance learning. These tools really helped us continue to grow and develop all the relationships we have with families, truly making them a part of the child's learning experience and program development. Then the next video, we're gonna see how the middle school team worked together for their game plan.
So we might have opportunities to work on a math goal related to quantity in both English language arts class and math class.
The first synchronous activity would be during math class. The second one, which actually could be in math class or in any class, during attendance, she could have a number line with the peers, positive and negative, and Abby needs to call on the peers depending on who she has chosen. So kind of like a name wheel, but instead using a number line. So like taking attendance or calling on other students to participate, which would be really helpful. Do you like that? So, yeah. Okay, perfect.
We like doing that in English class.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
An important part of creating the IEP game plan is to identify ways that family members can include work on target skills in their daily routines. For example, a student with a goal related to identifying quantity could work on the goal during dinner time or while on a walk in the
Hi, I'm going to be joined here by Kelly and Abby.
Hi. My name is. This is Abby. I'm her mom, and as you can see, seeing the way we came up with the solutions and ideas with Abby, it reminded us of how important these meetings are. The meaningful way that we were able to integrate all her school goals across things that Abby loves at home, especially such as mealtime, hanging with her sister, and especially what, Abby? Which one? TikTok, remember? It helped lessen the burdens of feeling like learning had to happen during synchronous instructions. We were able to help with her goal achievements too, but in ways that were more aligned with natural things that we were doing at home. Just the basics. What was your favorite goal to work on next? Working on math. Working in math? What were you doing in math? Work on my number. Yeah, number lines. She got to do that one with her sister a lot, so that was her favorite.
Thanks. That's really helpful to hear. Thanks, Abby and Kelly. We're so lucky to have you part of this journey, I want to ask you two questions. So in thinking about, we listened to Ms. Cordoba. I know that Dr. Henry expressed that was a common feeling amongst families. When we first started to work together through these conversations with educators and with your team specifically, what were some of the things that gave you the most relief?
Having that communication, knowing what she was supposed to be learning at that moment, we couldn't keep up with the work. So once they started communicating and having this game plan in place, it helped tremendously. We were able to catch on to what they were doing, and yeah, it helped out a lot. Just having that communication and even showing us what to do exactly. Like, I wouldn't know to incorporate her, let her sister help her with things. I didn't think of that. It was one of those like, okay, no, go over there. I'm working with your sister, and they're like, no, have her come in, and that helped out a lot.
Sure. I've heard you share a few times, Abby, things that you like that your teachers are doing, from their little digital Bitmojis to some of the things they've done with you. As we move back to in-person learning, Abby or Kelly, if you want to jump in, what would you want teachers to continue doing when we move back to in-person that they've done for you during distance that would still be helpful as we move back to being on campus?
What did you see that you want to keep going when you go in person? The breakout rooms. Well, so on Zoom she had breakout rooms, so she would have her sessions. Oh, which one? The break room routine. Oh, the Bitmojis. Yeah, I know you like those. But you were also talking about the breakout rooms. Remember, you like when your teacher would come in, tell you the game plan, what you have to do that day, your schedule, and then would you like for her to continue doing that in person? Yeah. Just to keep having that communication and just reassuring everything she has to do for the day.
Great. Yeah, that one-on-one time for priming for the whole day. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Thank you so much, Abby and Kelly. All right, we're going to go to the very next section, which is environmental and instructional supports. And I'm going to invite Dr. Graff back to join, and she will introduce this next section. Oh, I'm sorry, not Dr. Graff. I would like to invite Victoria Phillips, our middle school teacher, to come back. Thank you. And Miss Brady, our middle school specialist. Welcome.
So initially we heard from parents that engaging children with significant support needs in the online learning environment was really difficult, right? Because they're not teachers and they have a lot that they're doing at home, working from home. So basically it was a lot. So through conversations with parents, we quickly realized that the tools, like the first then chart, picture schedules, and task structure was really necessary to add in our addition to our online learning. And we rely on these supports in order for the kids to be successful in the classrooms. Through these strategies, we realized that the families needed this at their own home, in their own environment. And this would help them with instruction at home.
Okay, great.
Awesome. I know we're going to be watching a video. Ms. Phillips, we're watching a video, seeing this a little bit more. Let's take a look.
We were having trouble getting work done. I said, well, go sit in the wagon. And he has a little laptop on his lap, working on his stuff, sitting in the, I could just roll him, just a little motion. These were things that I had used to create engagement, sustained participation, and embedded instruction. This is a good time to get your Legos out, your blocks. Look at it, I put 4 and 4 on each side, and that scale is balanced. Some of these tools are things like anchor charts, study carols, and timers that can be used as is. And others, like the daily picture schedule or first then chart, needed to be adjusted for the home environment to make it effective. Talking through them with parents and collaborating on adjustments helped us both create supports for goal implementation at home and be on the same page.
Instead of using his talker, I use a whiteboard and give him choices.
Anytime he can select the break and advocate for himself and say, I need this to calm down. I mean, that's what we want, right? So that as he gets older, he knows the things that are going to work to de-escalate. As time goes on, we will continue to refine the tools identified in the initial family support plan and the goal activity matrix.
sharing. Typically, when our students move up grade levels, these environmental supports that we developed throughout the year to help them be successful move up with them from teacher to teacher, grade to grade. And we quickly realized how vital it was to get those environmental supports that allowed our students to be really successful on campus at home, because their learning environment moved from campus to home, and parents really needed those tools, and the students needed them as well to know the sequence of their day and have those self-regulation tools that allowed them to be really successful. So we had to create new tools for the home. Some of them we could still keep the same, and some we had to tweak to make them applicable for the home setting. We have another video we're going to show you that outlines how this conversation took place with families to develop these tools.
When we moved to distance learning, parents communicated the knowing where to go and how to move on to the next learning activity. It was exceptionally difficult for them. Having one single page that includes all of the information that parents would need has proven to be a useful support. And as things change each week, we update the tool so that access to learning can occur. This tool includes access to the learning management systems, how to turn in assignments, educational software tools and their descriptions, and links to meeting notes or links to the schedule for the upcoming week.
Remember how I did the Bitmoji classroom? I'm setting up a new one for the second semester. Has that been helpful?
Actually, yes, because I was able to find everything in one place. That when I got the hang of it, of course. And she thought it was so cute when you would make yourself too. So she's like, ooh.
Like Ms. Brady and Ms. Phillips you were referring to, we use a lot of environmental supports in the classroom. Our classroom schedules, visual schedules, first then charts, token boards, anchor charts. And as we shifted to support families to support their kids at home, we realized that there were some knowledge gaps in what families knew either about these tools or how to use these tools. And so in having direct conversations specifically about environmental supports and structures, it helped us recognize where we needed to do some more communicating and teaching and supporting with families to make sure that we close those knowledge gaps. And we didn't really recognize that there was a need for that until we just really sat and listened through that family support plan process, and then collaborated with families for a better outcome. Like you saw from Abby and Kelly, for them to have that simple schedule really made a big difference. And that was an important learning outcome from this for us.
Thanks, Ms. Woodward, for sharing that. I'm going to invite Victoria and Sarah back. Can you join me on screen? And, there were so many things that changed this last year, and you guys have been amazing partners to families and to each other. And I know that you've worked with other general ed and special ed teams. And so as we have done our distance learning, our hybrid, our now bimodal instruction, what are some things that you feel like you can carry forward from this work and from this experience as you continue to support all students in inclusive settings moving forward?
I think for me, one thing that really, being in a distance learning model, it really forced us to be creative and to think outside of the box, because we had learners who were at home and, some of them had a harder time staying engaged when they weren't in the classroom and receiving that learning in person. So we really had to diversify our lessons and add new programs in, like Nearpods and Kahoots, and embed some movement breaks with, like, I'll play a song on Spotify where everyone, dances with their cameras on, and, those kind of tools to help break up the lessons and make them different than kind of what we were used to in the traditional model. Utilizing breakout rooms, small group support, that was all really important. And I think it allowed us to reach a wider range of students, given all the different circumstances our learners were experiencing working at home. And so as we transition back to this hybrid model, and then when we go back, hopefully, to full in person, keeping those platforms and kind of strategies that we developed to keep them engaged, continuing with that when we resume back to our normal schedule, hopefully sometime. How about you?
Yeah, similarly with what Brady was talking about, I just didn't realize how many online resources there were. Like I did use online things, but I would have paper copies of things, and just being forced to have to change that kind of mode of teaching really I saw was effective for the students, even down to them turning in assignment. It was a lot of them, it was easier for them to do it because I would explain it in detail, but also just the different modes of creativity they were able to produce their work and show their mastery of it. So I had like an activity for drawing, like they were able to draw an activity instead of it would just be them presenting something in class like that. So it's different strategies that I will definitely be using in the classroom that was awesome. Like they were able to engage with the material a whole lot more because of the shift.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Thanks for sharing your experience and what you'll bring forward. We look forward to seeing it in action. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to our last section, which is co-teaching and universal design for learning. And I'm going to ask Rachel to come back on and introduce this video for us.
Sure. And, just before I do that, I wanted to just tag on to what Miss Brady and Miss Phillips said. One more piece of learning that was key for me is just making explicit connections between IEP goals and activities that happen outside of the classroom in the context of the home and the community. And so, when working with families, we realized in developing the game plan, we were trying to, talk about opportunities to work on a reading comprehension goal at home or on a walk or while watching a show. And sometimes there was a really challenge for families to say, like, how is this goal meaningful outside of the context of the classroom? And almost 100% of the time we could draw a line between working on this goal in the classroom and building skills outside of the classroom setting. And I think that we need to be having those conversations explicitly with families as we're going through that IEP development process and IEP review, because families need to see that connection between what's in this IEP that's designed to be implemented in the classroom setting and how it builds skills outside of the classroom setting. So that said, let's shift gears to talking about co-teaching and UDL. And like I shared earlier, we also polled educators, not just special educators, general educators as well. And both general educators and special educators reported the top strategy that made them feel the most successful in distance learning and that allowed them to have what they were seeing the most effective impact on students. No surprise, it was co-planning and co-teaching. The most effective strategy for them. So we're going to take a look at a short video here that highlights how we implemented co-planning and co-teaching and universal design in our planning while we were in a distance setting.
One of the signature practices at Wish Community School and Wish Academy School is our commitment to collaboration and co-teaching. Co-teaching and co-planning are essential components for effective distance learning programs for our students, especially those with extensive support needs. Each team, comprised of a general education teacher and a special education teacher, works together to prepare innovative lessons with tiered supports.
What we're going to be doing is we're going to do a scenario activity. I want you to take a stance as a colonist from 1774.
And does anybody have any questions?
Plan books, planning times, and co-teaching schedules are accessible to the entire team. These supports ensure that each learner is held accountable to the highest standards and can make the greatest gains.
Next letter.
In.
In. You got the word on that one. Very good.
Sharing our resources allows communication and collaboration to be as efficient as possible. This collaboration also ensures that both the general education teacher and the special education teacher can contribute at an optimal level.
The most effective strategy for me and my colleagues during distance learning in an inclusive classroom has by far been co-teaching.
Planning and co-teaching is such an essential part of our school and the mission of our school to serve all of our students. I know, just speaking from experience, I came from a school setting where I was a special education teacher in a separate day class, and I always felt like I was on my own island. It was like, those are your kids, you figure it out. And when I came to WISH, that was the first thing that I noticed, is the message and the genuine feeling that these are our kids, no matter the needs that they have. They are ours. It's not yours, they're ours. And having that co-teacher who is their expert in the field, and then being able to come in with my knowledge of tailoring lessons and thinking about how we can adapt for the needs of our students based on, the goals that they have or where they're at. It just makes for a really amazing team. I feel we're able to reach the needs of our students in such a stronger way than if I were just teaching alone or if she were just teaching alone. Like we become each other's cheerleaders when we see our students are making progress, when they're getting concepts that we have, taught to them. And I feel like my co-teachers are my family, and I love this model. I love just the sense of togetherness that co-teaching and co-planning allows for. It's been really, really special and meaningful. We have another video that will show you a little bit more about co-teaching and universal design at our middle and high school. So I'm really excited to show you that.
To ensure that these students can get access to their education and have their needs met, we co-plan and co-assess each week.
So I'll know in order which students to choose.
Here you can see an example of our collaborative planning document. Our planning includes information about the content that will be covered and also how we can maximize opportunities for students to participate in instruction using their strengths, as well as identifying any modifications that need to be created and what co-teaching models will be used when we're both present during synchronous instruction.
You can either reply in the chat, you can reply private chat, or you can mic.
So as we look at these examples of co-teaching, I think that one thing that's really evident is the intersection between co-teaching and universal design for learning. As educators, we know that traditional modes of instruction with one teacher speaking and the rest of the class supposedly listening was never really effective. And I think that that was really amplified during distance learning. And so one thing we really wanted to showcase in these videos is the ways in which two teachers working together really amplifies the accessibility for all students through universal design for learning. And we really have had to be flexible. I think that as Ms. Brady and Ms. Phillips were describing, they had to learn new tools and new strategies for working together to maximize the benefit for all students. I also just wanted to share that I think that co-teaching really changes or starts to shift the entire culture of a school, and that it also really supports the professional development of all of the teachers involved. I was just talking to a teacher yesterday who said that she's learned more about instruction in her last 2 years co-teaching than she has over her 10 years working as a teacher. Because of all of the things that that teachers learn from one another as they're engaged in these very close partnerships. So I think that I'm going to invite Rachel back on to talk about some of our learnings.
All right, thanks, E. Just key takeaways. So we are thinking about in terms of families and in terms of educators. So doing this work and looking closely at how can we really be effective at supporting kids, especially with more extensive, support needs through distance learning. What really stood out for us? So for families, from the family side, it was that we needed to ensure that specially designed instruction happens anywhere, whether that's at school here or in the home setting. So we have to tailor programs to the students' needs with family input. Tools that we use here at school don't naturally transition to the home setting without us having a conversation, really listening and redesigning for effectiveness in the home setting. And that families have always and continue to teach us how to better serve their children. They're the experts in their kids. And so we have to partner and listen, and that makes us more effective. From the educator side, the family support plan is a living document. So we don't write it once, print it, pass it out, or share it on the Google Drive and file it away. It's something that we have to return to again and again, either organically or in scheduled follow-up meetings. We need to update it as we learn new things about how to best support the student and family and reshare with everybody involved. We have to meet early and we have to meet often with families during, no matter the instructional model, whether it's distance, hybrid, or traditional. We have to be open to listening and learning so that we can collaborate for better outcomes for kids. And then finally, we have to prioritize co-planning and co-teaching. Co-planning and co-teaching, doing that together ensures excellence and meaningful engagement. And it has to be a priority no matter what the service delivery looks like, including now with this new bimodal, that we're doing, where we have in some cases some kids live in front of us and some kids on the screen, and we're trying to address both. Co-planning and co-teaching can maximize the learning for all, no matter the modality. So I think now we're actually going to turn it over for questions, and Shauna's going to jump back on to support us with that.
Fantastic. Thanks everybody for carrying us through. That was a real high level journey through the Excellence Together process. And we have about 2 hours of the full journey of the 6 families available on our Excellence Together website. So I hope some folks can check those out.
I mean, I just want to say, wow. We should have warned the audience beforehand about the inception of seeing some of the speakers in the videos and on camera. But I'm just so thankful that our speakers could join us and share. And like Shauna said, see the whole video series on the Excellence Together website. And so I know we're coming up short on time. So we may be able to take 1 or 2 questions if there is any live in the chat. If we aren't able to get to them today, you can always follow up at this email on your screen, which is info@excellencetogether.com. But I did have a quick question for you, Shauna, off the cuff. Just, with all of the underlying message, I feel like was so strong with every presenter, every video, and just the work that Wish has done. Relationships just seem so crucial to the work. And I know that the Educating All Learners Alliance has really, done work to support that student-teacher, parent-teacher connection. And so how is it for you, as the leader of the school, to approach that sort of relationship aspects of the distance learning work? I know this is off the cuff, so.
Sure. Well, thanks for asking that, Gabrielle. I would say that it's really important as leaders to make opportunities for collaboration to happen so those relationships and that trust can be built, right? We're setting up macro systems between general and special education teachers so they have a reoccurring co-planning time. We're setting up systems for teachers and parents to be able to speak together in times that those are expected to occur. We're setting up times for the administration team to work one-on-one with teachers and so forth so that we can deepen those relationships and truly be responsive to all of the stakeholders, especially our students.
Absolutely. And it's exactly like one of our teachers who joined us said, that you know, the students and the parents, they know themselves the best. So they know what will work for them. So if we have those collaborative environments, things will, you know, be able to be communicated better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. Well, that does come to the end of our time today. So again, I would like to thank all the speakers for joining us. This session will be shared online, so you can check the recording and share it with people. And yeah, Shauna, anything else to share?
Just thank you so much for having us and allowing everyone to share their experiences in developing the Excellence Together modules. Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thank you. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and afternoon. Bye, all.
Bye.